What happens when even the most powerful man alive faces something he can't control? Stay with us. This story might just spark a new beginning. Hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The lights at the Tesla Hyperloop unveiling event were blinding. Thousands of attendees filled the arena, every camera aimed at one man. Elon Musk stood center stage, dressed in his usual understated black jacket and gray shirt, fingers gripping the edge of the podium. Behind him, an enormous LED screen pulsed with graphics of high-speed transit tubes rocketing through digital cities. Applause erupted when he said, "We are on the verge of making traffic a relic of the past." He smiled, but something was off. A flicker. A small stumble. Barely noticeable, unless you were really watching. He reached for his water bottle with a slight tremble in his hand. Seconds passed. Then, the silence hit like a punch to the gut. Elon's knees buckled. The microphone clattered to the stage as his body crumpled in slow motion. A gasp rippled through the audience before everything went dark. Backstage was chaos. Paramedics rushed in, security formed a circle around his body, and staff members screamed into headsets. The live stream cut to black. News outlets scrambled to confirm what had just happened. Was it a stroke? A heart attack? Foul play? In the ambulance, Elon's face was pale. His breathing shallow but steady. Electrodes monitored his heart. Blood pressure low. Brain scans were clean. No cardiac event. No neurological trauma. Everything pointed toward a strange conclusion: his muscles had failed him. At Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Dr. Evelyn Lee was paged with an unusual request: consult on a case involving severe muscular fatigue in a high-profile patient. She didn't expect to walk into a room with the world's most famous entrepreneur laying flat on his back, his eyes barely open. He looked at her and managed a weak smirk. "So," he croaked, "I guess I just broke down." She didn't laugh. Instead, she asked calmly, "Mr. Musk, have you been experiencing muscle weakness, cramping, or fatigue over the past few months?" "Cramping, yeah. Legs mostly. Arms sometimes feel like jello after typing all day." "And you didn't think to tell your primary care doctor?" He raised an eyebrow. "You assume I have one." 3 hours later, Evelyn stood staring at Elon's muscle scan. His skeletal muscle mass was dangerously low, levels more commonly seen in someone 2 decades older. There was no disease, no injury. Just slow, silent deterioration. It didn't make sense at first. He was Elon Musk. He was SpaceX. Tesla. Neuralink. He was the Iron Man of Silicon Valley. How could someone like him fall victim to something so ordinary? Sarcopenia, the slow, age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. It affects nearly 30% of adults over 60 in the US. It sneaks in, disguised as fatigue, stiffness, or minor imbalance. And then, one day, your body just stops cooperating. No one talks about it. No one thinks it'll happen to them. Until it does. Back in the hospital room, Elon stared at the ceiling, disconnected from the world he'd built. He whispered, "I sent a car to space, but I forgot to maintain my own body." Evelyn sat beside him. "You're not alone. Muscle loss is one of the most ignored aging issues in modern medicine. And it doesn't just happen to the elderly. Stress, lack of nutrition, and overwork can accelerate it." Elon turned his head. "So what's the fix? More time at the gym?" "It's not that simple," she said. "You need the right nutrients, the right movement, and time to recover. Your lifestyle doesn't exactly allow for that." He smiled faintly. "You're not wrong." There was a long pause. Then he added, "I don't want this to be a headline. Tech billionaire collapses from weakness. I want to understand this. Solve it. Fix it. Not just for me. She nodded slowly. Then we start with the truth. Your brain can run on caffeine and code. Your muscles can't. Later that night, Evelyn walked out of the hospital, the city lights buzzing in the distance. She knew what she had to do. Not just treat Elon Musk, but expose the larger issue. Muscle health wasn't a luxury. It was survival. It was independence. It was dignity. And if someone like Elon, driven, wealthy, seemingly invincible, could almost lose everything because of it, what about the rest of us? She pulled out her phone and opened a blank document. At the top, she typed, 3 foods that can save your muscles after 60. She didn't know it then, but that list would go on to change the world. If the richest man alive can forget to protect his muscles, maybe we've all been focusing on the wrong things. Stay with us, because what happens next might just save your strength too. For months, maybe even years, Elon Musk had been brushing off the signs. The tingling in his hands after typing for hours. The stiffness in his legs every time he stood up from a long meeting. The fatigue that no amount of Red Bull or nootropic stack could shake off. He just assumed it was normal. After all, he was juggling 7 companies, parenting 5 kids, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night. Of course his body was tired. That was the price of changing the world, right? But beneath the steel image of a man powering through 20-hour workdays, there was a quieter reality unraveling. It started with small things. A dropped pen. A missed step on the stairs. The way his fingers didn't respond quite as fast when he typed during investor calls. He would blink, shake it off, and push through. That's what he'd always done. From sleeping on the floor of Tesla's factory to dodging bankruptcy more than once, pushing through was what got him here. But now, pushing wasn't enough. A few weeks before the collapse, Elon had flown to Texas to oversee Starbase operations. After walking a mile along the site with his team, he needed to sit down. His legs felt like concrete. Sweat poured down his back, and not from the sun. One of the engineers offered him water, concerned. "You okay, boss?" "Yeah," Elon said, smiling thinly. "Just been skipping cardio for a few decades." But in truth, he was scared. His body was whispering something he didn't want to hear, "You're not invincible." Back in California, his assistant, Clara, began to notice more signs. "Your gait's different," she said one morning, half joking. "You walk like a retired cowboy." He chuckled. "It's part of the brand." She didn't press it. She should have. During a late-night call with a group of Neuralink engineers, Elon tried to sketch an idea on the whiteboard. He lifted his arm halfway, then stopped. Pain. Deep and sudden. He switched to his left hand. Shaky. Sloppy. After the call, he sat alone in the boardroom, staring at his reflection in the glass. For the first time, he saw a man who was wearing down. Elon never talked much about his childhood. But one memory came back to him now, uninvited. He was 12 years old in Pretoria, South Africa, building a homemade radio. His father, Errol, walked in, scoffed, and said, "You're wasting your time with toys. Real men build things with their hands." Elon never responded, but he remembered thinking, "I'll build something so big the whole world will hear it." That defiance became his fuel for decades. But what if, now, his body was turning into the same voice telling him, "You're wasting your time"? He hated that thought. The irony wasn't lost on him. He could design rockets to Mars, program AI that could write poetry, and envision underground highways beneath cities. But here he was, struggling to walk a flight of stairs without grabbing the railing. He began quietly researching muscle weakness on his own. He read medical journals late at night, scanned Reddit threads, tried supplements that came in unmarked boxes from niche biohacking vendors. Creatine. NAD+. Collagen powders. Mushroom extracts. Nothing made a difference. Then he found a term that kept popping up in the science papers, sarcopenia. Age-related muscle loss. He scoffed. I'm not old. But the research was clear, sarcopenia doesn't just strike at 70. It can begin at 40. Even earlier, especially in high-stress, low-rest lifestyles. Especially in people like him. He didn't tell anyone. Not his engineers. Not his family. Not even Clara. But the fears started eating at him from the inside. Every morning, he woke up feeling less like Elon Musk and more like a stranger wearing his skin. He looked the same on the outside, sharp jawline, determined eyes, black t-shirt tucked into jeans, but something fundamental was slipping away. Control. And for Elon Musk, control was everything. His relationship with his sons had already been strained. He loved them deeply, but he struggled with closeness, with softness. One of his teenage boys had recently said, "You're like a robot, Dad. Cool to everyone but us." It stung more than he let on. He remembered trying to throw a football with them 6 months ago in the backyard. Just 5 tosses, and his shoulder was done. They noticed. They didn't say anything, but he saw it in their eyes. He wasn't the superhero they thought he was anymore. Then came the Hyperloop launch. He knew he wasn't 100%. But the world was watching. The product was ready. The show had to go on. And so he stood under the bright lights that night, trying to silence the tremor in his hands, the tightness in his calves, the dizziness creeping in. Trying to hold on to the illusion a little longer. But illusions can only hold for so long. Now, days after the collapse, alone in his hospital room, Elon stared at his reflection in the window again. Only this time, he didn't see a stranger. He saw a man who had forgotten something fundamental, to take care of the machine he lived in. The brain had always been his weapon. But it was time he started fighting for the body too. What if the body you've ignored your whole life is the one thing standing between you and everything you still want to do? Elon Musk asked himself that, and his answer started a revolution. For years, Elon Musk's life had been a relentless forward motion, an unbreakable engine of ambition, risk, and genius. Headlines called him the real-life Tony Stark. Twitter worshipped or cursed him by the hour. Investors, engineers, politicians, everyone had an opinion on Elon. But few knew the price he'd paid to become that man. It had been decades since he allowed himself to slow down. After PayPal. After Tesla. After SpaceX. After Neuralink. After the Boring Company. After the endless rounds of fundraising, coding, engineering, and damage control. His days were packed from 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. The time between was filled with caffeine, adrenaline, and stubbornness. He had no hobbies. Vacations were a myth. Meals were whatever he could eat with one hand while emailing with the other. That intensity made him legendary. It also broke him. The hospital room was quiet now, a strange contrast to his usual environment filled with blinking monitors, prototypes, and the soft hum of innovation. Evelyn Lee stood at the window, reviewing charts. She had seen this before, not in billionaires, but in retired athletes, war veterans, even stressed-out single parents. People who'd run their bodies into the ground without realizing it, until they did. She turned to Elon. "Do you want the truth?" she asked. "Always," he said, voice hoarse. She held nothing back. "You have early-stage sarcopenia. Your muscle mass is decreasing faster than average for your age. You've ignored the signs for too long." He raised an eyebrow. "But I'm not 70. You're not. That's what makes this more dangerous." He paused. "Is it fixable?" She nodded. "Yes. But not with shortcuts. Not with gadgets. You'll need to change your lifestyle. Food, movement, stress, recovery. The works. Elon sighed. You mean, everything I've never made time for? He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. And for the first time in a long while, he wasn't thinking about rockets or robots or shareholder meetings. He was thinking about his mother. May Musk had raised him largely alone in South Africa. A dietitian and model, she taught him the basics of nutrition when he was a kid. She made sure they always had real food on the table, even when money was tight. But as he grew older, especially in America, Elon abandoned all of it. Burgers during meetings. Protein bars for dinner. Energy drinks for breakfast. He hadn't spoken to May in 3 weeks. She had texted him after the Hyperloop collapse, but he hadn't answered. Not because he didn't want to. Because he didn't know what to say. How do you tell your mother that your genius outpaced your health? Later that night, Clara, his assistant, brought in his laptop and whispered, "You've got over 2,000 unread messages. The press is running wild. Do you want me to?" "No," he cut her off. "Shut it all down. For now." She paused, surprised. Then nodded and quietly stepped out. This wasn't about the companies. This was about something deeper. Alone again, Elon opened an old folder buried in his hard drive. Personal photos 1996. There they were. Images from when he first arrived in the US, skinny. Broke. Bright-eyed. Eating peanut butter sandwiches in a rented apartment with no furniture. One photo stood out, him and his brother Kimball, lifting cheap weights in their backyard. That was the last time he remembered feeling strong. Not just mentally. Physically strong. He had traded that strength for empires. Now he wanted it back. The next morning, Evelyn returned with more than charts. She brought stories. "This," she said, handing him a folder, "is Frank. Vietnam vet. 83. Couldn't walk without help. After 3 months of the right diet and muscle-focused rehab, he's back to doing push-ups." She laid down another. "And this is Rosa. Widowed, 71. Got diagnosed with early sarcopenia, started eating differently, moving daily. Now she teaches water aerobics to women half her age." Elon flipped through the pages in silence. "They weren't billionaires," Evelyn said. "But they did what you haven't done yet. They made time for themselves." He met her eyes. "I don't want to just get better. I want to understand this. Fix it. At scale." She smiled. "Then we'll do it together. But you're going to need to listen this time." That night, Elon texted his son Xavier. "Want to come by tomorrow? No meetings. Just want to talk." The typing dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then reappeared. Finally. "Sure. Be there around 3. The door cracked open the next afternoon. Xavier, now 19, tall and sharp like his father, stepped in hesitantly. Elon sat up, smiling. "Hey." "Hey," Xavier replied, looking around. "You look better than Twitter says." Elon chuckled. "Yeah, the rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated." There was a pause. Then Elon said, "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For being too focused on everything but this," he gestured between them. "On us. On my own body. I thought building the future meant sacrificing the present." Xavier shrugged. "You were doing what you thought was right." "I was doing what I thought was necessary," Elon corrected. "But maybe it wasn't." They talked for over an hour. About life, college, gaming, space. Nothing revolutionary. And yet, everything was. When Xavier left, Elon sat in silence for a moment. Then pulled out a notepad and wrote at the top. "What matters most?" And beneath it. "Health. Family. Legacy. Not Mars." Not autonomous networks. Not crypto integration. Just 3 simple things. He'd been chasing greatness for decades. Now, it was time to redefine it. You can build the future. But not at the cost of the body that will live in it. The real power? It's not in rockets or code, it's in what you feed, move, and protect every day. You'd never expect the woman who might change Elon Musk's life to be just 5 feet tall, wearing sneakers, and sipping a lavender oat milk latte while flipping through muscle tissue scans. But that's exactly who Dr. Evelyn Lee was. And unlike the executives, consultants, and self-proclaimed health gurus that circled around Elon like moths to flame, Evelyn didn't care about his title, his net worth, or the fact that most of the world still thought he was untouchable. She only cared about one thing: his muscles were dying. Evelyn had spent the last 20 years at the intersection of medicine, longevity research, and geriatric rehabilitation. She wasn't a TV doctor or a TikTok biohacker. She was old school, deep science, peer-reviewed papers, and real patient stories. Her specialty? Muscle degeneration in high-functioning individuals. It was a niche field. Until Elon Musk collapsed. When she first reviewed his scans, she thought there had been a mistake. "Are you sure this isn't someone twice his age?" she asked the attending nurse. "Nope. That's him." She sat in stunned silence, flipping through pages, declining lean mass, elevated inflammatory markers, vitamin D deficiency, low creatine phosphate stores. The numbers painted a picture of a man in biological decline, hidden behind a billion-dollar brand. "This isn't just stress," she muttered. "This is systemic." Her first meeting with Elon wasn't like she'd expected. No tech buzz. No ego trip. No entourage. Just a man, pale and quiet, sitting upright in bed, thumbing through notes, trying to look like he was in control when everything inside him was screaming otherwise. "Dr. Lee," he said with a polite nod. "Thank you for coming." "Please," she said, walking in confidently, "if you're expecting me to sugarcoat anything, let's cancel this now." A ghost of a smile passed his lips. "Noted." She didn't waste time. She pulled out his muscle density scan and held it up. "This is you. Right now. Your muscles are underpowered, underfed, and underused. Think of them like a factory that's slowly losing power. Eventually, the lights go out." "I didn't realize it had gotten that bad." "That's the problem," she said. "No one ever does. It creeps in. Sarcopenia doesn't announce itself with a heart attack. It comes as a whisper. A stumble. A dropped object. And eventually, a fall that changes everything." He nodded slowly. "I can't have this happen again," he said. "Then you're going to have to stop living like you're 30 and immortal." Over the next few days, Evelyn visited him twice daily. She brought data, diagrams, and yes, home-cooked meals from her own kitchen. "I don't do processed," she said firmly as she handed him a warm bowl of lentil stew. "Your recovery starts here. Food is information. And right now, your cells are starving for the right message." He took a spoonful, cautiously. It tasted good. Simple. Real. He couldn't remember the last time he ate a meal that hadn't been delivered in a box or served in a boardroom. They talked about mitochondria. About protein synthesis. About hormonal shifts after 40. She broke down how chronic stress floods the body with cortisol, a hormone that eats away at muscle like rust on steel. But more importantly, she explained that muscle wasn't just about biceps and bench presses. It's your metabolism. Your mobility. Your immunity. Your ability to heal. The more muscle you lose, the faster you age. And the food? There are 3 primary foods, she said, that every aging body needs to preserve and rebuild muscle. We'll get to that soon. But first, we have to fix your foundation. Elon was quiet for a moment, then asked, how many people are dealing with this and don't even know it? Millions, she replied. Most think they're just getting older when in reality, they're breaking down. That night, Elon stared at the ceiling again. He'd spent so much of his life thinking about building machines, cars, rockets, AI. Now, he was realizing the most important machine in his life had been neglected, his own body. The next morning, Evelyn returned with an old-school binder filled with case studies. These are people I've worked with. Not celebrities. Not CEOs. Just people who got tired of being tired. One story stood out. A 66-year-old former teacher named Sandra had fallen in her bathroom and shattered her hip. Her doctors recommended surgery and a nursing home. Instead, she started Evelyn's program. After 6 months, Sandra was not only walking again, but had joined a local hiking group. She says her favorite part of the day now is climbing a hill, Evelyn said. Because it reminds her she can. Elon blinked. I want that. She nodded. Then you're going to have to fight for it. They spent the next hour mapping out a rough plan. Clean, whole food meals rich in protein and anti-inflammatory nutrients. Light resistance training focused on control, not weight. Supplements targeted at mitochondrial health and recovery. A schedule that included rest, not just as a suggestion, but a requirement. You have a brain built for war, Evelyn said. But we need to teach your body peace. Later that day, Clara stopped by with a stack of paperwork. There are investors asking questions, she said. And the press is asking for a statement. Elon didn't even look up. Tell them I'm taking a personal health sabbatical. Her eyes widened. You've never done that. Not even after your divorce. He shrugged. First time for everything. As she left, Evelyn smiled. He's starting to get it, she thought. The man who once raced toward every future now had a new mission, reclaiming the present. You can run companies. You can run countries. But can you run a mile without falling? That's the question Elon Musk had to answer. And the woman asking it? She wasn't impressed by money, only by muscle. What if you could see your body the way a doctor does, every weakness, every risk, every second ticking toward a breakdown? For Elon Musk, numbers had always been a comfort. They told the truth. Clean. Unemotional. Understandable. He trusted data more than people. So when Dr. Evelyn Lee told him it was time to get a full-body DXA scan, a muscle mass analysis, and a VO2 max test, he said yes without hesitation. Let's see the numbers, he said. She nodded. But don't expect to like them. The scan took 45 minutes. He lay completely still in a machine that looked like something he might have designed himself. A silent arm passed slowly over his body, capturing data points every second: bone density, lean muscle mass, visceral fat, tissue hydration. The tech operating the machine was discreet, but Elon could read body language. She winced slightly when the thigh data loaded. Not a good sign. Later that afternoon, Evelyn walked into his hospital suite holding a tablet like it was a verdict. Okay, she said, sitting on the edge of his bed. Brace yourself. She pulled up the scan results. 3 3D models appeared. One was red and lean, what a healthy, muscular male body should look like at his age. The second was Elon's. Gray. Deflated. The third was a projection, what would happen in 5 years if he did nothing. It looked frail. Shrunk. Unstable. He stared for a long time. I look like a damn crash test dummy, he muttered. Technically, Evelyn said, worse. At least they have structural integrity. She began walking him through the numbers. Your lean body mass is at 71%, but it should be closer to 85%. Your appendicular skeletal muscle index, that's the muscle mass in your limbs, is below average for your age group. She tapped again. A red zone blinked on screen. Your visceral fat, the fat around your organs, is creeping up. That's not just a cosmetic issue. It disrupts hormones, feeds inflammation, and accelerates muscle loss. He raised an eyebrow. So I'm basically melting? In slow motion, she replied. From the inside out. She didn't sugarcoat anything. You're on the edge of something called dynapenia, a condition where strength decreases even before muscle mass does. It explains why you feel weak even though you don't look it. Elon rubbed his temple. I thought this was all just stress. It is stress. And lack of movement. And sleep deprivation. And poor nutrition. It's not one thing, it's everything. Your lifestyle is built to break down muscle. He didn't speak for a while. Just sat there, absorbing the data. For once, he didn't have a comeback. Finally, he looked up and asked, if this were anyone else, someone without my money, my access, what would you tell them? Evelyn leaned forward. I'd tell them the truth. That if they didn't change now, they'd lose the ability to walk without help by 60. That a simple fall could put them in a hospital. That this is the beginning of the end, unless they fight back. He nodded slowly. Okay. Then let's fight. That night, Elon looked at his reflection again, not in a mirror, but in the glowing outline of his muscle scan, still open on the tablet. He studied every part of it. The diminished quads. The weak glutes. The loss of shoulder mass. The underdeveloped core. All the places where his body was giving up, piece by piece, without him even noticing. He'd spent years building machines tougher than humans. Now, he had to rebuild himself. The next morning, Evelyn brought him something new, a muscle health tracker, a proprietary system she'd developed with UCLA researchers. It measured everything from grip strength and walking speed to heart rate variability and recovery response. You'll use this every week, she said. It's like a dashboard. But for your body. Elon held the device, intrigued. Biofeedback? Exactly. This will show you progress, real progress, not just how you feel. Because your body will lie to you. But this won't. He smirked. I like tech that calls me out. Later that day, Clara walked in as he was doing light resistance band work with a therapist. She paused in the doorway, eyes wide. Are you working out? Elon, sweating and grimacing, nodded. Turns out the gym is cheaper than a second collapse. She smiled, half in disbelief. You're actually doing it. I don't really have a choice anymore. You always had a choice, she said. You just never made this one. By week's end, the numbers were already shifting, slightly, but measurably. Resting heart rate, down. Sleep quality, improving. Glucose variability, stabilizing. Grip strength, up by 4%. It wasn't a miracle. It was math. And as he lay in bed that night, sore but steady, he whispered to himself. You can't build Mars if you can't walk up a damn hill. The body doesn't send emails when it's failing. It whispers. It warns. And then, one day, it crashes. Elon Musk finally saw what was happening under the surface. The real question was, what would he do about it? If you had to rebuild your body from scratch, what would be your fuel? Elon Musk asked that question, and what he learned could change how millions eat forever. Elon had heard every diet under the sun. Keto. Paleo. Carnivore. Vegan. Algae smoothies. Intermittent fasting windows that would make monks wince. But for all his experiments, he'd never thought of food as muscle medicine. Dr. Evelyn Lee was about to change that. It was a rainy Thursday morning when she walked in with a tray, not of pills, not of powders, but of actual, whole food. 3 small plates. No labels. No branding. Just 3 simple dishes. Elon stared at them, skeptical. This is it, he asked. This is everything, Evelyn said. These 3 foods, if seniors, tech execs, and honestly anyone over 40, understood their power, we'd rewrite the aging process. She picked up the first one. 1. Wild-caught salmon. Rich pink flesh, lightly seared with lemon and herbs. This, Evelyn said, is loaded with omega-3s, yes, but more importantly, it's packed with leucine, an amino acid that flips the switch on muscle protein synthesis. Elon raised a brow. I thought protein was protein. That's the myth, she replied. It's not just about grams. It's about what kind. Salmon has the right amino profile to tell your muscles, repair, rebuild, grow. Most people aren't getting that message. He took a bite. Savory. Clean. Powerful. Also, she added, omega-3s reduce muscle inflammation. That soreness you're feeling after workouts? This will help you recover. She moved to the second plate. 2. Fermented Greek yogurt with walnuts and cinnamon. Gut health? Elon guessed. Partly, Evelyn said. But more so, this is about bioavailable calcium and probiotics, which support bone strength and nutrient absorption. You can eat all the protein in the world, but if your gut can't break it down, your muscles starve. He nodded, interested. The walnuts, she continued, add alpha-linolenic acid, another omega-3, and the cinnamon helps regulate blood sugar. That means less insulin spikes, more stable energy, and better use of dietary protein. Elon stirred the mixture slowly. I haven't eaten like this since. I don't know. Ever. Then came the third plate. 3. Sautéed dark leafy greens with garlic and olive oil. Spinach. Kale. Chard. A splash of lemon. Fragrant and earthy. Let me guess, Elon said. This is the Eat Your Veggies lecture. Evelyn grinned. It's the Save Your Mitochondria lecture. He blinked. Mitochondria, as in, the powerhouse of the cell. Exactly. Dark leafy greens are loaded with magnesium, nitrates, and polyphenol, all of which support mitochondrial function, which fuels your muscle endurance and slows age-related fatigue. She paused, letting it sink in. This isn't rabbit food. It's performance fuel. Elon sampled the greens. They weren't bland like he remembered from childhood. They were rich, garlicky, alive. Do you realize how few people actually eat like this? He asked. Evelyn nodded. Most people aren't aging. They're decaying. Because food isn't fuel anymore, it's entertainment, or stress relief, or convenience. But these 3 foods? They rebuild you. So what's the plan? Elon asked. We rotate them in, she said. Every single day. Alongside other nutrient-dense foods. No junk. No ultra-processed. Every bite needs to serve the mission now. And the mission is rebuild the machine. That afternoon, Clara popped in with a protein bar and cold brew in hand, like she'd done 100 times before. Elon looked at the bar, then looked at Evelyn. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. Read the label. Clara flipped it over. Soy protein isolate, high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweetener blend. Elon gently handed it back. No more of those. Clara's jaw dropped. Who are you? He grinned. Someone who just met spinach again. By the end of the week, Elon was making changes, real ones. A personal chef trained by Evelyn came in. Processed snacks disappeared from his mini-fridge. Soda was replaced with mineral water and turmeric tea. Fish, yogurt, and greens showed up on every plate. And something strange started happening, he felt better. Not dramatic, not instant. But steadier. Stronger. clearer. He even noticed it during a company Zoom call. His voice didn't waver. His hands didn't tremble. His posture held. Afterward, he messaged Evelyn. "It's working. I didn't expect to notice this fast." She replied. "Food is code. You just started writing the right script." That night, he looked over the 3 foods again, scribbling on a notepad. Salmon equals strength. Yogurt equals stability. Greens equals stamina. It wasn't a miracle cure. But it was a starting line. And for the first time in a long time, Elon was ready to run. No pills. No hacks. Just 3 foods with ancient power and modern science. Elon Musk didn't need a supercomputer to fix his muscles, he just needed a plate. You can change everything about yourself in silence, but eventually, the world notices. Especially when you're Elon Musk. By the 3rd week of his recovery, something had shifted. Not just inside Elon Musk, but outside, too. The way he walked. The way he stood. The tone of his voice when he spoke in brief, low-key meetings with his core team. Gone was the ghost of exhaustion. In its place. Focus. Calm. Strength. He hadn't posted on X, formerly Twitter, in 12 days. That alone triggered 1,000 think pieces. Is Elon pulling back? Where is Musk? Has the king of chaos gone zen? A blurry photo leaked of him walking out of a private clinic in Brentwood, wearing joggers, sunglasses, and holding a bottle of turmeric tea. No assistance. No fanfare. Within hours, it trended. Elon goes monk mode. Clara handed him her phone. "You're the headline on 5 different health blogs," she said. "One of them called you the new face of anti-aging." Elon chuckled. "I just stopped eating garbage. They also think you've gone into hiding." He leaned back in his chair, sipping herbal tea. Let them. He wasn't hiding. He was training. 3 days a week, he met with Evelyn's physical therapist, Sam, a former pro athlete turned biomechanics coach. They weren't doing deadlifts or CrossFit. They were rebuilding fundamentals. Controlled squats with resistance bands. Posture drills against the wall. Slow, intentional movements with light ankle weights. "Elon," Sam said one day, "you've got power. But your foundation's trash. It's like putting a rocket engine on a rusted-out tricycle." "I've done worse," Elon said, sweat dripping. But fair. The changes weren't just physical. At night, Elon started writing in a notebook, something he hadn't done since the early PayPal days. On the front cover, Musk 2.0. He logged energy levels, sleep hours, mood swings, training progress, foods that helped versus foods that dragged him down. It became a ritual. And the more he wrote, the more he realized this wasn't just a reboot. It was a new operating system. One morning, Evelyn brought in a new blood panel. "Your inflammation markers are down 40%, she said, grinning. CRP is near optimal. Glucose levels stable. Your testosterone is climbing. Mitochondrial function is up." Elon raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. The spinach strikes again." "That, and the fact that you're finally sleeping. Your body's repairing itself. You gave it permission." He stood in front of the mirror that night, shirtless. There were still signs of wear, softness around the midsection, tightness in his back, but his shoulders looked firmer. His posture was straighter. His eyes looked alive. "You're not 20, he whispered to himself, "but you're not done, either." 2 days later, he made his first public appearance in weeks. It wasn't at a launch or a crypto panel. It was at his son Xavier's community robotics competition. No press. No fanfare. Just a dad in the crowd. But someone snapped a pic anyway. Elon in jeans, laughing. Healthier. Lighter. Grounded. By the end of that day, headlines flooded back in. Musk reappears, slimmer, smiling, and silent. Is Elon on a wellness journey? Musk's secret health plan, what we know, so far. And then the speculation started. A new longevity startup? A fasting experiment? A biotech company in stealth mode? None of it was true. And all of it was fuel. At home that night, Clara asked, should we release a statement? Elon shook his head. Let them guess. But what if people start copying you based on wrong information? He paused. Then said something that surprised even him. Maybe it's time we give them the right information. He called Evelyn. I want to record a conversation, he said. Just me and you. Talking through all this. You sure? She asked. You're not exactly camera shy, but you've been flying under the radar lately. Yeah, he said. But this isn't about hype. This is about health. I want people to know what's happening to them, even if they don't feel it yet. She smiled through the phone. Then let's do it. The next morning, in a quiet corner of the clinic's garden, they set up a small camera. No crew. No lighting. Just Elon, wearing a plain t-shirt, and Evelyn with her white coat draped over a chair. He started with a question. What happens when your brain runs faster than your body can keep up? Evelyn leaned in, thoughtful. Eventually, your body pulls the plug. And if you ignore it, it'll make the decision for you. They talked for an hour. About food. About failure. About why muscle loss isn't just an old age issue, it's a modern age epidemic. You don't need $1 million to fix this, Elon said. You just need 3 things: movement, food that feeds you, and the courage to slow down. When they finished, he looked at Clara. Upload it. No filters. No edits. She blinked. Seriously? Seriously. It went live the next day with the title. Elon Musk, Why I Almost Broke, and How I'm Rebuilding. No viral music. No jump cuts. Just truth. And within hours, it was everywhere. You can change your life in silence, but at some point, the world notices. And when Elon Musk chose to speak, he didn't sell a product. He offered a blueprint. 1 video. 1 hour. No edits. No filters. When Elon Musk told the truth about his body, it triggered a reaction no one could have predicted. They didn't expect it to go viral. In fact, Clara was convinced it would tank. No thumbnail. No hashtags. Not even a clickbait title, she asked, watching the upload bar crawl to 100%. Elon shrugged. If people are smart enough to go to Mars, they're smart enough to press play. He had no idea what he'd just started. Within 6 hours, the video had 1.2 million views. By the next morning, 7.8 million. By the end of the weekend, 23 million. Comments flooded in by the thousands. I thought this was going to be a hype piece, but this hit different. Why did no one ever tell me about sarcopenia? I'm 47 and everything he said sounds like me. I've been eating garbage, sleeping 4 hours a night, and wondering why I can't get up without pain. Musk just soft-launched a health revolution. Reddit threads dissected every moment of the conversation. Fitness YouTubers stitched clips, diving deep into Evelyn's protocols. Doctors reacted. Trainers analyzed. Dietitians offered full breakdowns of the 3-food plan. And then the media caught up. Elon Musk's muscle message, Why America's Seniors Are Listening, time. A billionaire's breakdown goes viral. Is this the start of a health awakening? The Atlantic. Leucine, spinach, and yogurt, the new tech bro diet. Vice. Is Elon Musk right about muscle loss? CNN Health Roundtable. Evelyn's phone wouldn't stop ringing. NBC wanted her on the Today Show. A book agent pitched a deal in 6 figures. A longevity startup offered to buy her muscle tracking app in full. She turned them all down. "I'm not here to sell a trend," she told Elon. "We're here to build a movement." He nodded. "Good. Because this isn't a phase for me." Elon, for once, stayed silent. No tweets. No follow-up posts. No press release. He just kept doing the work, eating clean, training slow, tracking progress, rebuilding from the inside out. But that didn't stop the theories. He's starting a supplement company. He's building a longevity-focused AI. This is the soft launch of Neuralink Health. Watch, he's going to put Evelyn Lee on a board somewhere. None of it was true. Yet. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened. Older adults, those 50 and up, started sharing their own stories. #MuskMuscle tagged thousands of TikToks and Instagram reels. A 62-year-old grandpa in Ohio showing his spinach sauté recipe. A 70-year-old woman documenting her first week back in the gym. A former ER nurse pulling resistance bands out of storage saying, "If Elon can start over, so can I." It wasn't just a viral moment. It was a movement. And corporations noticed. Gyms started advertising muscle retention programs. Salmon and Greek yogurt flew off Whole Foods shelves. Smartwatch companies rushed to add muscle tracking features in firmware updates. Even one biotech firm in Palo Alto pivoted its entire messaging overnight. Optimizing strength, not just lifespan. Back at the clinic, Evelyn walked into Elon's room, holding a printed comment from YouTube. It read, "I'm 59, a former truck driver. Never paid attention to health. But now I'm eating spinach and walking laps around my neighborhood. Thanks for making this real." She handed it to him. He read it twice. "That's why I did it," he said quietly. That evening, Clara joined him on the terrace. She looked out at the hills, glass of sparkling water in hand. "Crazy few days," she said. "Yeah," Elon replied. "I gotta admit, I didn't think people would care." He smiled. "Turns out people don't want perfection. They want permission." To do what? To stop breaking themselves quietly. And start fixing what they thought was lost. And in that moment, as the sun dropped behind the Santa Monica Mountains, it hit her. This wasn't just a story about one man's recovery. This was the start of a mass awakening, about strength, age, health, and what's possible when you stop chasing hacks and start chasing truth. Elon Musk didn't launch a product. He sparked a conversation. And sometimes, the quietest revolutions begin with the body. It's not about looking ripped. It's about surviving your own future. Dr. Evelyn Lee calls it the muscle code, and once you learn it, you can't unsee it. There was a whiteboard in Elon's rehab room now. Covered in layers of diagrams, formulas, and sticky notes, it looked more like a SpaceX strategy session than a health plan. But today, Evelyn wasn't talking rockets. She was talking muscles. People think of muscle as just bulk. Vanity. Gym stuff, she said, tapping a marker to the board. But in reality, muscle is biological infrastructure. She circled the phrase in red. Lose it, and you lose everything. Elon leaned forward, curious. How early does that loss start? Earlier than you think. You hit peak muscle mass around 30. After that? You lose 3 to 5% every decade, unless you fight it. She clicked a remote, and a chart appeared on the screen. Muscle mass versus age. Age 30 100%. Age 50 85%. Age 70 70%, or lower without intervention. Age 80 plus danger zone, 50% or less. This is why people fall. Why they break hips. Why they lose independence. It's not age. It's atrophy. Evelyn handed Elon a marker. Let me show you something. She drew 4 circles: brain, heart, bones, and muscle. Then connected them all. Muscle talks to every part of your body. Through hormones. Through inflammation pathways. Through insulin signaling. When muscle declines, your brain slows, your metabolism tanks, your bones weaken. She underlined one phrase. Muscle is medicine. Elon looked at the board. So if we rebuild muscle, we're not just getting stronger. We're reversing system-wide decay. Evelyn smiled. Exactly. She tapped a final phrase onto the screen. Muscle isn't just strength. It's survival. For the next 30 minutes, she walked Elon through the science. 1. Muscle and blood sugar control. Muscle is your biggest glucose sink. The more muscle you have, the more efficiently your body handles carbs. Lose muscle, and insulin resistance skyrockets. 2. Muscle and hormones. Muscle stimulates testosterone, growth hormone, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, the stuff that keeps your brain young. 3. Muscle and immunity. Muscle produces myokines, messenger proteins that regulate your immune system and reduce chronic inflammation. 4. Muscle and mortality. Studies show that grip strength is a stronger predictor of death than blood pressure or cholesterol. Elon blinked. Grip strength? Yup. It's that powerful. He paused, taking it all in. And how many people know this? Evelyn shrugged. Almost no one. Most doctors don't even measure muscle mass. Elon frowned. That's terrifying. It is, she said. Which is why I'm teaching you. That evening, Elon opened his notebook again. This time, he didn't write numbers. He wrote reasons. To carry my kids when they're older. To outlast the burnout. To not fear my own body. To build Mars, and walk on it. It wasn't about aesthetics anymore. It was about agency. The next morning, Clara brought in a package. From the university lab, she said. They saw the video. Said they've been studying muscle decline for a decade, and want to collaborate. Elon opened the envelope. Inside, a folder titled, Project, Muscle Code. He turned to Evelyn. Sound like a plan? She grinned. Let's scale it. Later that week, in an off-camera follow-up, Evelyn explained the muscle code in simple terms. It's 3 pillars: movement, protein, recovery. That's it. 1. Movement, resistance training, even just body weight, 3x/week minimum. 2. Protein, 1.6 g per kg of body weight daily, with a focus on leucine-rich sources. 3. Recovery, sleep, stress management, and nutrient support, especially magnesium, omega-3s, and vitamin D. Think of it like brushing your teeth, she said. You don't wait for cavities to start. You protect the structure daily. Elon posted a rare tweet a few days later. The strongest signal of future health might be grip strength. That says something. Hashtag muscle code. It was retweeted over 60,000 times. One reply stood out. I'm 67. Started deadlifting this week because of your video. My grandkids thought it was a joke, until I showed them. Thank you. And just like that, the muscle code wasn't just a theory anymore. It was becoming a movement. Most people fear aging because they've never seen what it looks like when you age with strength. The muscle code changes that. Elon Musk didn't just find a new body, he found a new blueprint. Elon Musk doesn't just change industries, he reshapes the way we think about them. What if the body itself is the next frontier for innovation? What if we could treat aging like a system error, The idea came to Elon one night, lying awake in bed. He had just finished a call with the Neuralink team about a new project on neuroplasticity and longevity. His mind raced. Why were people treating the brain as the only frontier for innovation when the body itself was an untapped goldmine? What if aging was a system failure, like a bug in a program? The next morning, he sat at the breakfast table, sipping coffee, staring at the prototype for a new Tesla Cybertruck. It had been engineered with some of the toughest materials on the planet. The interior was bulletproof. The frame had survived tests most other trucks couldn't. But what if? What if we could apply the same logic to the human body? He asked Clara, who was going through emails. We build cars to handle crashes. Why don't we do the same for our bodies? Why don't we engineer them to handle the crashes that come with aging? Clara raised an eyebrow. I'm not sure I follow. Think about it. The human body is a crash test dummy for life. We're all getting hit by the same impacts: disease, muscle loss, bone fractures, chronic pain, and there's no system in place to mitigate it. What if we could? Clara sat up. You mean like a biohack? Elon grinned. Not a hack. A system upgrade. He began to develop what he called the crash test dummy theory, a radical idea that the way to longevity wasn't just about beating aging, but re-engineering the body like a machine. Treat it like a tech product, applying rigorous, scientific, and mechanical principles to each system within. That afternoon, Elon called up some of his closest engineers and health specialists. We've been building products for decades that endure, he said over the speakerphone. Now, we need to apply that mentality to human biology. The call was brief but intense. By the end of the day, Elon had mapped out the first step, applying structural engineering principles to human health. What if the key to reversing aging was not just about fixing symptoms? What if you could actually reinforce the human body to prevent damage before it happened? Elon and his team brainstormed new approaches. 1. Bioresilient bones. They started looking at how advanced alloys like titanium and carbon fiber could inspire bone-strengthening technologies. Could nutrient delivery be combined with biomechanical designs to optimize bone regeneration? Could wearables provide real-time muscle feedback? 2. Muscle protection layers. What if there was a way to prevent the atrophy of muscle in older adults? They began thinking of designs that could shield muscles from the natural decline in strength. Perhaps nanotechnology that could help rebuild and sustain muscle fibers over time, using protein-boosting peptides. 3. Neural enhancements. Could neural enhancements help people recover from injuries faster? Neuralink, of course, was the obvious solution. They started theorizing how brain-machine interfaces could not just help people with paralysis but could actually repair the body's coordination systems before aging took a toll. Elon called Evelyn. I think we're onto something here. She was skeptical at first. I'm not following. Are we talking about wearable tech? Robotics? Exoskeletons? Not just that, Elon replied. What if we could rethink the body from a systems perspective? Like a crash test dummy. You know, the body's breaking down in stages: osteoporosis, muscle wasting, cognitive decline, but what if we could stop that from happening altogether? What if aging isn't inevitable? What if we could program it to stop breaking? Evelyn paused. You're thinking about re-engineering the body. Exactly, Elon said. Can we apply the same principles we use in engineering cars, rockets, and batteries to the human body? And just like that, the team began to conceptualize a project called Project Bioresilience. They weren't starting with drugs or supplements. They were starting with a new philosophy: systematic prevention and reinforcement. A month later, the first test came. They began designing a new wearable tech prototype that could track muscle performance in real time. It wasn't just a fitness tracker. It was a feedback loop that monitored muscle strain, bone density, heart rate, and neurological response. The goal: reinforce muscle before it started deteriorating. Elon stood in the lab, examining the initial prototypes. The first version of their wearable looked more like a smart vest than a high-tech gadget. It could send a signal every time a user's muscles began to weaken, suggesting specific exercises or movements to prevent muscle wasting. What if we can get people to wear this starting at 40? Elon mused. By the time they reach 60, they'll have muscle maintenance built into their routine. Prevent the damage before it's too late. The team agreed. They knew it was a long shot, but if they could combine AI, biomechanics, and bioengineering, they could disrupt human aging entirely. And then, Elon had an epiphany: what if the next phase wasn't just about the individual, but a collective revolution? The more he thought about it, the more clear it became. If they could design this technology to be as ubiquitous as the smartphone, it could change the course of aging worldwide. But it wasn't just about muscle strength. It was about giving people the tools to re-engineer their own bodies, starting from the inside out. Aging is inevitable, but why can't we stop the crashes? The crash test dummy theory is about rethinking the very systems that govern our bodies. It's about applying the relentless innovation that has already changed the world to something even more sacred: the human experience. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? What if the solution to aging wasn't just about living longer, but about living stronger? With Project Bioresilience, Elon Musk and his team are about to change the course of human aging forever. The first prototype was more than just a piece of tech. It was a statement. Elon watched as the team worked through the final adjustments, plugging in the last of the sensors. The device was sleek, a high-tech vest that looked far more like something out of a sci-fi movie than a wearable meant to keep people healthy. It had neural connections, tiny muscle-triggering electrodes, and feedback sensors to gauge movement and muscle strain. "We call it the Bioresilience Vest," said Dr. Harlow, the lead biomechanic engineer. "It doesn't just monitor your body. It talks to it. It guides you." Evelyn watched as the prototype powered up, her arms crossed, a skeptical glint in her eye. This is a lot. What exactly does it do?" "Let me show you," Dr. Harlow said, connecting it to an app on a nearby tablet. Within minutes, the vest lit up, sending real-time data to the screen. A graph showed Evelyn's heart rate, muscle strain, bone density, and even her neural response to the exercises she was doing. "All right, we're starting slow," Dr. Harlow said. "You're going to do a light set of squats. The vest will give you feedback, guiding your form, helping to activate the right muscles. Just move normally." Evelyn raised an eyebrow but complied, following the instructions on the screen. As she squatted, the vest hummed gently, offering suggestions. "Activate quads more. Increase depth slightly. Great, now hold that position for 3 seconds." She was surprised by how natural it felt. The vest wasn't just a piece of tech, it was working with her. After the set, the feedback was instant. "Data is good," Dr. Harlow said, checking the screen. "Your muscle response was stronger than expected. In fact, you're using 20% more muscle than you would without the vest." Elon smiled. "This is just the beginning. If we can enhance muscle activation like this, imagine what happens when people use this daily." Evelyn looked up from the screen, her mind racing. "But that's just one part of it. We've still got to address recovery." The team agreed. After all, strength wasn't just about what you could lift, it was about how well you could recover. The vest wasn't just meant to help people activate muscles during exercise. It was also designed to promote muscle recovery post-workout. For the next phase, the team started experimenting with a recovery mode, an algorithm that used the sensors to detect muscle fatigue, inflammation, and tension. When the vest detected stress, it activated tiny biofeedback devices that emitted mild electrical pulses, helping muscles recover faster and more efficiently. They tested it again on Evelyn, asking her to wear the vest after a full workout. This time, it wasn't about performance, it was about recovery. She lay back on a sofa, letting the device do its job. After an hour, the screen showed her recovery progress. "Recovery's up 30%, Dr. Harlow said, looking impressed. That's revolutionary." Evelyn raised her eyebrows. 30% better recovery after one session? That's huge. Elon nodded. It's more than huge. It's a blueprint for the future. We could reverse decades of muscle degradation for millions of people, if they just have the right tools. Over the next month, the team refined the bioresilience vest. They added more sensors, tweaked the feedback mechanisms, and fine-tuned the recovery algorithms. They also integrated muscle health data into the wearable's companion app, so users could track their progress in real time. By the end of the month, the bioresilience team had something far beyond what they could have imagined. They had a product, but more importantly, they had a vision. They weren't just building wearable tech. They were creating a new approach to aging, one that didn't just fight muscle loss, but prevented it from happening in the first place. Elon sat in the lab one evening, reviewing the final designs. Clara joined him, sipping coffee. "This is it, right?" she asked, leaning over the table. He looked at her, eyes full of purpose. "We're not just launching a product. We're launching a movement. This is the future. And it was time to take it to the world." The first official test came at the Global Health Summit, an event attended by leaders in medicine, fitness, and technology. Elon, Evelyn, and the team unveiled the bioresilience vest for the first time in front of an audience. The reactions were mixed. Some were skeptical. Others were in awe. But one thing was clear, they had disrupted the conversation. The next day, major publications reported on the summit. Is this the end of aging? Elon Musk's bioresilience tech could redefine human longevity. Muscle health takes center stage at Global Health Summit, and it's all thanks to Elon Musk. Revolutionizing aging, the bioresilience vest is just the beginning. The response was overwhelming. People lined up for early access. Senior citizens, athletes, fitness enthusiasts, they all wanted in. Elon knew the next step. They were going to scale it. Bioresilience wasn't just a product. It was the beginning of a health revolution. He looked at Evelyn, who was reviewing their production timelines. "What's the next step?" he asked. Evelyn smiled. "We scale. We push. And we keep going. This is just the first chapter." The bioresilience movement wasn't just about wearing a vest. It was about reshaping what it meant to age in the 21st century. It was about empowering people to fight back, to reclaim their muscle, and to live stronger for longer. The bioresilience vest didn't just help you recover after a workout. It helped you recover your future. In a world obsessed with hacks and shortcuts, this wasn't about the fast track, it was about the long game. Elon Musk is known for thinking big, but as the bioresilience vest takes off, the world starts to see just how far his vision can truly reach. With millions eager to try it out, the stakes have never been higher. The bioresilience vest was more than a product now. It was a movement, a new wave in health technology that promised to reshape human aging in ways no one had thought possible. Elon stood in front of a massive crowd at the World Health Organization's International Health Expo, preparing to deliver the keynote address that would mark the global launch of bioresilience. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, a mix of doctors, researchers, investors, and media outlets ready to see what Musk had in store. As the lights dimmed and the crowd hushed, Elon stepped onto the stage. He took a deep breath and looked out over the sea of faces. "Thank you for being here," he began. "What we're about to unveil isn't just a product. It's a new way of thinking. We've been told for generations that aging is inevitable, that muscle loss, cognitive decline, and health deterioration are just part of life. But I don't believe that anymore. The human body is a machine, and it can be re-engineered to endure the challenges of aging." The room was silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Today, we're launching Bioresilience, a new approach to muscle health and aging that combines the best of biomechanics, neuroengineering, and artificial intelligence to enhance the human body, not just repair it. Together, we will prevent the decline of aging, step by step, muscle by muscle. The crowd erupted into applause. But behind the scenes, the Bioresilience team was already preparing for the next phase, the inevitable challenges that came with scaling such a groundbreaking product. As the news spread, Bioresilience's global reach exploded. Thousands of orders poured in from around the world. The app stores were flooded with downloads for the companion app that synced with the vest. Health professionals and senior citizens were particularly eager to try it, hoping for an end to muscle atrophy, chronic pain, and other age-related issues. But with this overwhelming demand came a series of logistical nightmares. At the production facility, things started to move faster than anyone had anticipated. The engineers were working overtime, struggling to keep up with the pace. Manufacturing delays, supply chain issues, and quality control challenges began to crop up. Elon paced in his office, his mind racing. "We can't afford to fall behind," he muttered to himself, staring at the growing queue of orders. Clara, who had been coordinating the international distribution efforts, walked in, looking exhausted but determined. "We're already backordered by months in some countries. And don't even get me started on shipping. We're struggling to keep up with demand." Elon rubbed his temples. "We need to scale faster. I need to get the production lines automated. I'll speak with the Tesla factory engineers and see how we can apply the same principles of mass production that we used for electric cars." It wasn't just about making more vests, it was about creating a new type of infrastructure to support a global health revolution. Elon quickly realized that Bioresilience wasn't just another tech product. It was a global health initiative that needed careful navigation through regulatory hurdles, international partnerships, and the cultural adaptation of its technology. As the company moved forward, another challenge reared its head: regulations. Each country had its own set of rules when it came to health tech. In the United States, the FDA had strict requirements for medical devices, even if the Bioresilience vest wasn't explicitly classified as one. In Europe, they had the CE mark to consider. And in Asia, health regulations were notoriously slow to approve new tech. Elon convened a team of legal experts and health regulators, determined to fast-track the process. "We need to be able to adapt our product to fit each region's rules without compromising the core design," he said, scanning through various compliance documents. Evelyn, who had been working closely with the legal team, joined him in a late-night strategy session. "Elon, we're making great progress, but the EU has strict laws about tech being used to influence bodily function. Bioresilience will be scrutinized. If we don't get that certification fast, we'll be stuck with a waiting game." "We'll figure it out," Elon said with a decisive nod. "I'll take the lead on this. We've faced worse odds before." He then gathered his team of engineers and specialists. "While we deal with the legal side of things, we need to test the product at scale. Let's deploy smaller trials in several countries. We can adjust based on real-world feedback." The first round of global test runs began in select cities: New York, London, Tokyo, and Sydney. These were the high-impact launch zones, where they expected the most attention. The team worked closely with local health organizations and fitness centers to ensure the product's effectiveness, getting direct feedback from users. "People love it," Clara reported. "We're seeing an unprecedented amount of engagement. A lot of older adults are saying that their mobility has improved after just a few weeks. Some are reporting fewer instances of pain and more energy." Elon's face lit up. "That's exactly what we need to hear. It's working. Now let's take it to the next level. We're talking about a revolution here. If this works for seniors, imagine the impact it can have on people of all ages." But as the excitement grew, so did the backlash. Some critics argued that Bioresilience was more of a gimmick than a real solution, dismissing it as just another fad in the world of tech. One popular critic, Dr. Mason Graves, a renowned aging expert, went on TV and called bioresilience dangerous pseudoscience. He claimed that while the tech might provide short-term benefits, it was not a permanent fix for aging. Elon didn't take this lightly. The next day, he held a press conference to respond. "We're not selling a miracle cure," Elon said, his voice calm but firm. "What we're offering is a real solution to the physical deterioration that happens as we age. We're not promising immortality. What we're offering is a chance to live stronger and healthier for longer, to rebuild the very systems that break down over time." The backlash began to fade as more success stories emerged. Senior citizens reported increased strength and endurance. Athletes found their recovery times cut in half. People from all walks of life began to see the potential. As the months passed, bioresilience became more than just a product, it became a movement. By the end of the year, Elon had pushed the bioresilience vest into millions of homes. The world was changing, and people were no longer seeing aging as something they had to accept, it was something they could manage, and ultimately reshape. Aging isn't a fate. It's a system that can be improved, iterated upon, and made better. Bioresilience wasn't just about solving muscle health, it was about creating a new paradigm for living. Elon Musk had promised to change the future of aging. But as the bioresilience movement grew, so did the pressure. With global attention focused on them, the team was about to discover that true innovation doesn't just challenge the status quo, it redefines it. The bioresilience movement had gone viral. It was no longer just a niche product for fitness enthusiasts or seniors trying to stave off the effects of aging. It had become a cultural phenomenon, sweeping across continents. Within 6 months, the bioresilience vest was a household name. From doctors' offices to gym lockers, the wearable was seen everywhere. The app that paired with it became the go-to health tracking tool for millions. It wasn't just about building muscle anymore. It was about revitalizing lives, whether you were 25 or 75. Elon sat in the conference room, reviewing the latest data. The numbers were staggering. The bioresilience program had expanded into over 50 countries in a matter of months. Users were not only recovering muscle strength, they were improving mobility, enhancing their quality of life, and extending their physical vitality. The success felt surreal. Yet, despite the growing momentum, something was gnawing at Elon. Success came with its own set of complications. The bioresilience team had reached a new frontier in aging, but with that came increased scrutiny, complex regulations, and unexpected ethical questions. One of the biggest issues arose when a high-profile investor, Adrian Roderick, approached Elon with a bold proposal. Roderick, the head of a leading biotech company, saw the potential for bioresilience to revolutionize healthcare, but not just for aging people. "We're not just talking about extending life," Roderick said, his voice smooth. "We're talking about reshaping human capability. Imagine integrating bioresilience with advanced genetic editing. We could unlock strength and endurance for everyone, at any age." Elon raised an eyebrow, feeling a mix of intrigue and caution. "You're suggesting we use this technology on everyone? Even young people?" Roderick smiled, leaning forward. "Think about it. If we can optimize muscle health, why stop at fixing the problems that come with aging? What if we could create a future where people's physical limits aren't determined by genetics? We could unlock human potential on a global scale." Evelyn, who had joined the meeting, exchanged a worried glance with Elon. The idea was tempting, but it was fraught with ethical landmines. "Adrian, I get the vision," she said carefully. "But don't we have to consider the consequences? There's a fine line between helping people overcome age-related decline and turning bioresilience into a universal enhancer. We could be pushing humanity into uncharted territory." Elon leaned back in his chair, his fingers tapping against the table. He was deep in thought. What Roderick was proposing was an ethical minefield. On one hand, the idea of enhancing human physicality for everyone, not just the elderly, was incredibly enticing. On the other, it raised questions about equity, identity, and the potential abuse of such a powerful tool. Would bioresilience, initially designed to help people reclaim their health, become a tool for global inequality? What would it mean for those who couldn't afford the technology? Would it become a status symbol, a new way for the wealthy to maintain an unfair advantage? Elon knew he had to think carefully. As the months went by, the team faced increasing pressure to address these issues. It wasn't just about perfecting the technology anymore, it was about navigating the moral and philosophical ramifications of their work. Clara had become particularly vocal in these discussions. She felt it was essential to maintain bioresilience's core mission, improving quality of life for everyone, especially those facing the debilitating effects of aging. But what would happen if they started marketing the technology as a way to enhance everyone, regardless of age? One day, Clara and Elon found themselves alone in the company's testing facility, reviewing data from a new batch of prototypes. They were testing a new feature for the vest, an AI-driven algorithm that could adapt muscle stimulation based on real-time biological feedback. It was a breakthrough, but it also made them wonder just how far they were willing to go. "Do you ever worry we're pushing too far?" Clara asked, looking up from her tablet. "What if we're not just changing the way people age, we're changing who people are?" Elon exhaled deeply, his eyes focused on the data screen in front of him. "I worry every day. But sometimes, we have to ask ourselves, how can we move humanity forward without being afraid to challenge the status quo? This tech can transform people's lives. The question is, who gets to decide how far we take it?" Despite the ethical concerns, bioresilience continued to grow exponentially. Governments were eager to integrate the technology into their healthcare systems. But not everyone was on board. The backlash from some medical professionals and bioethicists grew louder. They argued that the tech was a double-edged sword, benefiting some, while potentially exacerbating social inequality. One prominent bioethicist, Dr. Evelyn Sanderson, appeared on a popular news program and raised concerns about the long-term consequences. Bioresilience might help people recover from muscle degeneration, but what happens when it's no longer a tool for recovery, but a tool for enhancement? What happens when only the rich can afford to keep themselves at peak performance? Her argument resonated with many, and the media began to pick up on the growing moral debate surrounding the technology. Elon addressed the criticism head-on, appearing on a global news network to speak directly to the public. He acknowledged the concerns, but remained firm in his belief. "We're not trying to create a division between the haves and the have-nots," he said. "Our goal is to empower people to live healthier lives, no matter their age. This technology is not about creating a privileged elite, it's about ensuring that the next generation doesn't have to face the same debilitating health problems we've accepted for centuries." Despite his reassurances, the moral questions surrounding bioresilience grew more complex. Was this technology simply improving lives, or was it changing humanity itself? In response to the growing concerns, Elon appointed a new committee, the Bioethics Council. This group was tasked with guiding the company through the ethical implications of bioresilience and ensuring that their technology would continue to serve the greater good. The council brought in experts from every corner of society, ethicists, doctors, sociologists, and even philosophers. Together, they would help shape the future of bioresilience, ensuring it stayed true to its mission while addressing the inevitable questions about human enhancement. Despite the controversy, the global impact of bioresilience was undeniable. The vest was continuing to improve lives, and the tech was becoming more mainstream. Hospitals, universities, and research centers were adopting the technology, and bioresilience was proving to be a game-changer in the fight against aging. Yet, with this success came the realization that they were at the frontier of something much larger. Bioresilience wasn't just changing aging, it was changing society itself. Elon stood in front of the bioresilience team, reflecting on the journey they had been on. "We've pushed the boundaries of what's possible," he said. "But now, we must ensure we're doing it in a way that benefits everyone. We've only just begun." The future of aging wasn't about turning back time, it was about shaping a future where we didn't have to accept decline. But as the world reached for this new future, the question remained, at what cost? As bioresilience reached new heights, Elon Musk and his team found themselves on the cusp of something bigger, something that threatened to push them even further into the unknown. In their quest to reshape aging, they were about to discover a new frontier of possibilities that could either make or break the future of human health. The air in the bioresilience headquarters was thick with tension. The breakthrough months had passed, and now the world was watching closely. The movement was a global success, the technology undeniable. But something unexpected had happened in the last few weeks, an insight that would send the entire bioresilience initiative in a new direction. Elon had just returned from a series of meetings in Europe, where the product launch had sparked an unanticipated surge of questions, not about the vest, but about its long-term implications. It seemed that bioresilience was now on the radar of a new, unexpected group, the neuroscientists. Dr. Sophia Pritchard, a leading neuroscientist, had sent a detailed paper to Elon's team, one that he couldn't ignore. It outlined a neurological breakthrough that could change the entire framework of bioresilience. "I've been researching the neural pathways that control muscle recovery and growth," Dr. Pritchard's paper began, "and it seems that the bioresilience vest is not only stimulating muscle regeneration but also interacting with the brain in ways that could alter cognitive function. This is a new frontier in how we think about aging." Elon read the paper twice before calling a meeting with his team. The potential ramifications were huge. The vest, originally designed to aid muscle recovery and combat the effects of aging, was now showing signs of impacting the brain's ability to regenerate. It was as if their innovation had opened a gateway to a whole new set of possibilities. "We need to explore this," Elon said, pacing back and forth in the conference room. "If the bioresilience vest is impacting the brain, we could be looking at something much bigger than muscle regeneration. This could change the way we think about neuroplasticity, memory, and even the mind-body connection." Clara leaned forward, intrigued but cautious. "But Elon, this is uncharted territory. If we start playing with neural functions, we could be crossing into dangerous waters. Do we even know the full effects of stimulating the brain like this?" Elon paused, his face serious. "I don't know. But this could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for. Imagine, people not only keeping their muscles healthy but actually improving cognitive functions, too. We're talking about a complete revolution in how we age." With the discovery in hand, the bioresilience team quickly mobilized to form a new research branch. The focus now was to understand the full extent of how the vest interacted with the brain and nervous system. Neuroresilience, as they called it, became a side project within the bioresilience umbrella. But as the research team delved deeper, they began to uncover more questions than answers. Was it safe to manipulate the brain's neural pathways in such an unnatural way? How would this kind of technology change the fundamental experience of aging? And what about the ethical implications of altering someone's brain function? The more they dug into the data, the more they realized they were on the edge of a scientific revolution. But that revolution was fraught with dangers. The possibility of inadvertently hacking the human brain, especially in people who were already dealing with age-related cognitive decline, was both exhilarating and terrifying. Despite the exciting possibilities, the team couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were about to overstep. They had originally set out to help people extend their physical strength and counteract the ravages of aging. But now they were faced with the potential of modifying something far more complex, the mind. Clara raised an important concern during one of the team meetings. What if we start seeing side effects? We already know that stimulating the brain could lead to changes in memory, emotional states, and even perceptions of time. What if people start experiencing things we didn't anticipate? Evelyn nodded. We could be entering a gray area in bioethics. What are the long-term consequences of mind-altering technology that could affect the elderly in unpredictable ways? We can't just ignore the risk of misuse or abuse. Elon turned toward his team, his voice firm but filled with resolve. This is what we do. We explore uncharted territories. We face risks. But we're also changing the game. If we can improve the brain's plasticity and muscle health simultaneously, we can offer people a chance to truly age without limits. The question is, can we balance that with responsibility? The moment the first whispers of this new direction reached the media, the backlash was swift. A number of tech critics and bioethicists quickly began raising alarms. Dr. Evelyn Sanderson, the same bioethicist who had criticized the product months earlier, was one of the first to speak out against the new neural enhancements. "This is the beginning of a brave new world, but it's one we aren't prepared for," she said on a popular talk show. The idea of manipulating brain functions in this way is incredibly dangerous. Who gets to decide what's normal or acceptable brain function? Once we start altering the mind, there's no going back. Her warning spread like wildfire, and soon bioresilience found itself at the center of another public debate, this time, not about its ability to heal the body, but about its capacity to reshape the mind. Elon, however, remained undeterred. "We can't stop now," he said during a press briefing. "What we've discovered could change everything. We're talking about enhancing the mind and body together. If we're careful, we could give people back their mental sharpness, their clarity, and their physical vitality. We're not playing God, we're pushing the limits of what's possible." As the controversy continued to unfold, Elon and the team found themselves at a crossroads. The discovery of how bioresilience affected the brain opened up an entirely new field of potential. But it also brought them face to face with some of the most difficult moral questions of their careers. Were they creating a technology that could truly improve the human experience, or were they venturing too far into uncharted territory? And most importantly, could they maintain their original mission of enhancing aging without crossing the line into human enhancement? For Elon, the decision was clear. Bioresilience wasn't just a product, it was a movement. But the next chapter of that movement had to be navigated carefully. As the bioresilience team continued their research, they found themselves on the precipice of an entirely new frontier, a frontier where the stakes were higher than ever before. Innovation always comes with a cost. For bioresilience, that cost was more than just money. As the technology pushed the boundaries of aging, it began to expose cracks in the system, cracks that could threaten the future of the movement and the very people it was designed to help. The momentum of bioresilience had reached a fever pitch. The wearable technology, which had once seemed like an ambitious dream, was now a reality that millions depended on. The vest was not just a solution for muscle health, it had become the key to unlocking a new era of physical and cognitive rejuvenation. But as the accolades and media buzz grew, so did the unintended consequences. What the bioresilience team had overlooked in their relentless pursuit of innovation was the hidden price of progress. It all started with an increase in the number of side effects reported by users of the neuroresilience technology. Initially, the feedback had been overwhelmingly positive, but as the weeks went on, more and more reports came in about unpredictable cognitive responses. People who had used the vest's neural stimulation feature began experiencing symptoms that no one had anticipated: disorientation, emotional instability, and, in some cases, even temporary memory loss. The feedback grew so concerning that Elon called for an emergency meeting. He sat at the head of the conference room, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a more somber tone. "What's going on?" Elon asked, his voice steady but filled with concern. Clara was the first to speak. "It's happening more than we thought. We've been receiving complaints from people in their 40s and 50s, even some in their 60s, who say they're feeling out of sorts. There's been a spike in cases of emotional confusion, and even some users have reported prolonged memory gaps." Elon's face tightened as he absorbed the gravity of the situation. "Have we isolated the cause?" Evelyn, who had been reviewing the data, spoke up. "It's tricky. The vest's neural feature was supposed to promote brain regeneration, but it's interacting with users' neural pathways in a way that we didn't foresee. The higher the stimulation levels, the more unstable some users seem to get." As the team dove deeper into the data, they realized the full extent of the issue. The technology they had developed, which had seemed so promising, was now causing unintended neural instability in a subset of users. For some, the cognitive improvements were undeniable. But for others, the risks were becoming all too real. "I thought we were giving people back their youth," Elon said, his voice tinged with frustration. "Now it seems like we've opened Pandora's box. We were so focused on making them stronger, we didn't think about how it might change them. Emotionally. Mentally." Clara exhaled deeply, weighing her words carefully. This wasn't supposed to happen. We were so focused on solving aging's physical problems that we overlooked the psychological consequences. Altering muscle function could be easy compared to altering the brain. The mind is far more sensitive, and now we're facing a moral dilemma. It wasn't long before the media caught wind of the issues. Headlines across the globe began to report the troubling side effects of bioresilience. Stories of people losing themselves, even briefly, because of the technology, spread quickly, and public trust in the company began to fray. The backlash came swiftly. Bioethicists and neuroscientists spoke out, warning about the dangers of tampering with the brain in such an invasive manner. Social media erupted with debates about the responsibility of tech companies to consider the psychological risks of their innovations. The company's stock price, which had been climbing steadily, took a sharp downturn as the press painted a picture of unpredictable consequences. It was as if the world was questioning whether progress was worth the sacrifices. Elon's team worked tirelessly, racing to uncover the root cause of the cognitive disturbances. After weeks of testing, they discovered something startling. The problem wasn't with the vest's physical design, but with the neural algorithm that was supposed to enhance the user's cognitive function. The algorithm had been designed to stimulate the brain's plasticity, hoping to trigger new neural growth and improve mental clarity. But in some users, particularly those with pre-existing cognitive conditions, the algorithm was triggering a reaction that interfered with the brain's normal functioning. It seemed that the neurostimulation had caused overactive neural activity in certain areas of the brain, leading to the erratic emotional and cognitive episodes. Evelyn, reviewing the data, sighed. "The sad truth is, we were pushing the limits of the brain's ability to regenerate. For most people, it worked, but for some, it had the opposite effect. It's like we unlocked a door that shouldn't have been opened yet." Elon leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. "So we're dealing with a human vulnerability that we didn't consider. Not everyone is the same. Some minds can handle this kind of stimulation. Others can't." As the team worked around the clock to develop a solution, they knew that the clock was ticking. The bioresilience movement was in jeopardy, and the weight of its global reach loomed over them. They were no longer just dealing with a product failure, they were facing a moral reckoning. For many of the early supporters, this revelation felt like a betrayal. Bioresilience had promised to change the way people aged, and now, instead of restoring vitality, it had created uncertainty in the minds of some users. What if this technology wasn't the miracle cure they had thought it was? Elon knew that they had to act fast. If they didn't find a way to balance innovation with responsibility, they would lose the trust of the public, and possibly jeopardize the future of bioresilience itself. "We have to pull back and reassess," Elon said. "We need to put more effort into testing, into making sure that we're not just developing for the masses, but for every individual. We can't afford another failure like this." Clara nodded. "We need to figure out a way to modify the technology so that it can work for the people who need it, without risking harm to anyone." In the coming weeks, the bioresilience team began working on a solution, a more refined version of the neural algorithm, one that would be personalized for each user's specific needs. Instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, they would implement more extensive testing and personalized calibration to ensure the technology was safe for everyone. At the same time, the team made a difficult decision. They temporarily suspended the neurostimulation features of the vest until they could perfect the algorithm. It was a move that caused tension within the company, but it was a necessary one to maintain public trust. As bioresilience turned the corner to fix their innovation, Elon couldn't shake the feeling that they had learned an important lesson. Progress was essential, but so was caution. The road to transforming aging wasn't going to be without setbacks. And in the end, the cost of progress might not just be about the money or the technology, it could be about the very human lives they sought to improve. In the wake of the setback, the bioresilience team found themselves at a crossroads. The road to transformation had turned out to be more treacherous than anticipated. Now, the question wasn't just about fixing the technology, it was about redefining the purpose of the movement itself. In the pursuit of progress, could they preserve their mission? It had been weeks since the neurostimulation feature was temporarily suspended. In those days, the bioresilience team had worked relentlessly, not only to fix the issues but to rethink everything they had done up until that point. The road ahead wasn't just about correcting the product, it was about recalibrating the vision of bioresilience itself. Elon sat in his office, his fingers drumming absently on the polished wood of the desk. The weight of what had transpired hung heavily on him. The movement that had once seemed unstoppable was now at a crossroads, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were playing with fire. The initial mission of bioresilience was clear: to give people back the vitality of their youth and extend healthy, fulfilling lives as they aged. It had been bold, simple, and powerful. But now, in light of the recent challenges, Elon began to wonder if they had been too focused on technology and innovation without fully understanding its broader human impact. "We've been moving at light speed," Elon said aloud to himself, "but we might have lost sight of why we started this in the first place." He pulled out a piece of paper and began writing, his thoughts taking shape as he reflected on the ultimate goal of bioresilience. Was it just about enhancing longevity? Or was there a deeper purpose behind the movement? In the next all-hands meeting, Elon gathered the team together, his face more serious than usual. It was time to talk about the future, not just about the immediate fixes they needed to implement, but about the bigger picture. "Everyone here knows the weight of the situation," Elon began. "We've discovered something incredible, but we've also learned that progress doesn't come without risks. What we're dealing with here isn't just a product, it's a movement. And now, we need to redefine that movement." Clara, as always, was the first to respond. "What do you mean by redefine?" Elon paused, choosing his words carefully. "I mean, we need to think about who we're really serving. It's not just about people who want to look younger. It's about everyone who's facing the effects of aging. We can't afford to ignore the human element, we've got to be more holistic in our approach." Evelyn, who had been quiet until then, spoke up, adding her perspective. "We've been so focused on creating the perfect technological solution that we forgot to consider the complexity of human experience. There's no universal fix for aging, what works for one person doesn't work for another. We need to adjust our expectations and focus on how we can help each person individually." Elon nodded thoughtfully. "Exactly. It's not just about a device that works for everyone. It's about empowering individuals to take control of their own health, and doing it responsibly." The team had worked for months on an idea that had once seemed so clear and compelling, but now, they were realizing that it was never just about the technology, it was about people. About their lives, their memories, and their well-being. As the discussion continued, the team realized that their focus needed to shift from just muscle regeneration and cognitive enhancement to a more comprehensive view of aging. They needed to create a product that was more adaptive, personalized, and holistic, something that could empower people to take control of their own aging process, rather than just offering a quick fix. Clara added, "What if we could incorporate behavioral health into the system? Not just physical health, but a way to monitor mental well-being, emotional states, and even social engagement?" Evelyn agreed. "That's exactly the point. Aging is multifaceted. People's needs are different, and so should the solution. We need to approach it as a journey, not a quick fix." With this new vision in mind, the team began to rework the product. The goal was not just to create a medical device, but a lifestyle system, one that could help people manage all aspects of aging, physical, mental, and emotional. The bioresilience vest, or whatever its next iteration would become, would need to work with the body, not just on it. In the coming weeks, BioResilience began forming partnerships with experts in psychology, nutrition, and behavioral health. The team knew that they couldn't do it alone. Aging wasn't just about physical muscle, it was about mental acuity, emotional resilience, and maintaining meaningful connections with others. To truly help people, we need to move beyond the individual, Elon reflected. We need a community-based approach, a movement that's about support and engagement. We need to create a system that helps people maintain connection to each other, their families, and their communities. As part of this new vision, the team revamped the BioResilience technology. The next iteration would feature an enhanced AI system that not only monitored physical performance but also took into account the mental and emotional state of the wearer. The new product would include an adaptive training regimen that adjusted to each individual's needs, along with a mental wellness tracker that encouraged users to engage in mindfulness exercises, social interactions, and other activities designed to promote mental clarity and emotional balance. Clara and Evelyn worked closely together, incorporating insights from neuroscientists, psychologists, and behavioral scientists into the product's development. They also ensured that users had access to a robust support network, where they could share experiences and receive guidance from others on the same journey. The road to transforming aging had never been clearer, or more difficult. But with a more thoughtful, human-centered approach, BioResilience began to find its new path. They weren't just trying to halt the physical effects of aging, they were aiming to create a holistic solution that worked across the entire spectrum of the aging experience. Elon felt a renewed sense of purpose. The stakes were higher than ever, and the risks were real. But now, the BioResilience movement wasn't just about enhancing muscle strength or cognitive function, it was about enhancing the human experience as a whole. "We've been given a second chance to make this right," Elon said to the team. "This isn't just about creating a product, it's about creating a future where aging doesn't feel like something we have to fight against. It's something we can embrace, something we can shape. Let's build a future where people can live not just longer, but better." With a renewed vision and a deeper understanding of the complexities of aging, the team began to rebuild, not just the product, but the movement itself. BioResilience would now be a system that went beyond the science of muscle recovery. It would focus on the whole person, creating a future where aging was not something to fear, but something to celebrate and optimize. Elon's eyes sparkled with determination as he looked out the window of the office, knowing that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it would be worth it. Innovation knows no borders, but its consequences are felt everywhere. As BioResilience expanded into new territories, they were forced to confront not just regulatory hurdles, but the deep cultural and ethical questions that came with changing the course of aging across the world. After months of recalibration and rethinking their approach, the BioResilience team was ready to take their mission to the world. What had started as a revolutionary idea in a small Silicon Valley lab was now poised to make an impact on a global scale. With the newly redesigned wearable technology, the team believed they had a product that could change the aging experience for people everywhere. But they quickly discovered that a new set of challenges awaited them. The first major hurdle was understanding the nuances of international markets. BioResilience had built a successful launch in the United States, but they knew that taking the technology global would require a careful understanding of local laws, cultural values, and ethical considerations. Elon had always been driven by the desire to change the world, but he now faced a challenge he hadn't anticipated: globalization. He knew that the innovations BioResilience had pioneered couldn't just be implemented in every country in the same way. Different regions had different health standards, regulatory requirements, and cultural perceptions of aging. The first stop on BioResilience's global expansion was Europe, where regulatory hurdles were famously difficult. The team was prepared for the challenges ahead, but the scale of the bureaucracy was more intense than they had anticipated. Evelyn sat in her office, reviewing the hundreds of pages of regulatory documents required to approve the BioResilience vest for distribution in Europe. The European Medicines Agency, EMA, which oversaw the approval of medical devices, had an extensive vetting process for health-related technology, especially one as advanced as bioresilience. It's going to take months just to get approval in the EU, Evelyn said, looking over the paperwork. They require clinical trials, long-term data, and a level of scrutiny we haven't experienced before. Elon, sitting across from her, sighed. I knew Europe would be difficult, but I didn't think it would be this complex. We can't just rely on the US market anymore. If we want this technology to reach people globally, we have to navigate these hurdles carefully. While regulatory challenges were a major concern, BioResilience team quickly learned that the biggest obstacle in global expansion wasn't just legal, it was cultural. In Asia, particularly in countries like Japan and South Korea, aging was viewed through a different lens. The tradition of respecting the elderly and honoring older generations was deeply rooted in the culture. The idea of extending life was seen as a positive thing, but intervening in natural aging processes was met with more skepticism. Would people want to reverse aging, or would they prefer to embrace the natural aging process? Clara, who had been tasked with leading the global outreach initiative, found herself struggling to understand how bioresilience technology would be received. In Japan, there's a strong sense of familial duty toward the elderly, but the idea of anti-aging might be seen as disrespectful, she explained to Elon during one of their strategy meetings. People there want to live a long life, but they also value the wisdom that comes with age. I'm not sure how they'll respond to something that feels like it's trying to erase those years. Elon nodded thoughtfully. We need to approach this differently. We can't just push the same messaging everywhere. Maybe it's about enhancing quality of life, not just fighting against age. People don't want to lose their identity as they age. They want to thrive, and that's something we can focus on. Beyond regulatory and cultural differences, the global expansion also meant confronting ethical issues. As the technology became more advanced, questions arose about who should have access to it and how it would affect society. In the United States, bioresilience had already faced scrutiny for its early risks, and now, the global stage added more weight to these concerns. Would wealthier countries be the only ones who could afford the technology, leaving behind developing nations? And what about the equity of access? If bioresilience tech could extend lives and improve well-being, was it ethical to limit its distribution? Evelyn and Clara found themselves in constant conversations about disparities in healthcare access. They were determined to make bioresilience available to as many people as possible, but the reality was complicated. I'm not sure we can solve this all at once, Evelyn admitted as she and Clara met to discuss the global rollout strategy. We have to think about pricing, distribution, and education. The technology might be a miracle for some, but if it's out of reach for others, it could lead to even more inequality. The next major hurdle was adapting bioresilience messaging to align with local norms. In countries like the United States, the focus had been on youthfulness, vitality, and longevity, but this messaging didn't necessarily resonate the same way everywhere. In Brazil, for example, people had a deep connection to family and community, and their understanding of aging was more aligned with the idea of connection rather than simply looking or feeling younger. Elon, we need to think about how people in different countries perceive family values, Clara said. In Brazil, the message that resonates most is that bioresilience isn't just about individual well-being, it's about being there for the people you love as you grow older. In these cultures, aging is about the relationships you build, not just your body's resilience. Elon nodded. So it's about reframing. Instead of just focusing on self-improvement, we should talk about how bioresilience helps people stay connected to their loved ones, to keep participating in family and community life. Despite the challenges, the team was determined to make bioresilience a global movement. They began forming alliances with local organizations, healthcare providers, and aging advocacy groups in each market to ensure that their technology would be seen as a tool for positive change. In Europe, they worked with universities and research institutions to ensure that their clinical trials were conducted with the highest ethical standards. In Asia, they engaged with cultural scholars and community leaders to ensure the technology would be viewed as a positive contribution to society. Elon's vision remained clear: bioresilience wasn't just about selling a product, it was about changing the narrative around aging. And to do that, they needed to approach each market with respect, understanding, and a commitment to bettering lives everywhere. As bioresilience technology began to take hold around the world, it became clear that their mission was far more complex than they had originally thought. They weren't just creating a product, they were creating a global conversation about aging, health, and human potential. Elon looked out at the horizon, feeling the weight of the task ahead. But as always, he was undeterred. There were still mountains to climb, but the path was now clearer than ever. No one saw it coming. A competitor so quiet, so under the radar, that it seemed impossible for them to pose any real threat. But as the bioresilience team would soon discover, in the world of innovation, silence is often the precursor to a storm. The phone rang in Elon's office, cutting through the silence of the late evening. He picked it up, recognizing the voice on the other end immediately. "Elon, we've got a problem," Clara said, her voice laced with urgency. "There's a new player in the market, and they're coming at us with everything they've got." Elon felt a chill. Bioresilience had made incredible strides, but he knew how fragile innovation could be. There were always competitors waiting to take the lead. "What's going on?" Elon asked, standing up from his desk. "I just got off a call with our contacts in the medical device world," Clara replied. "There's a startup that's been operating under the radar for months. They're calling themselves Regenex, and they've launched a competing product that's strikingly similar to ours." Elon's mind raced as he processed the news. Regenex? A competitor had come out of nowhere. It didn't make sense. "Who are they?" Elon asked. "What's their angle?" Clara paused before responding, "That's the thing. We don't know much about them. The company was founded less than a year ago, and it's been operating with very little press coverage. But their product, it's an advanced wearable that also targets muscle regeneration, cognitive enhancement, and even emotional well-being. And from what I've heard, it's already passed preliminary regulatory approval in several markets." Elon's heart sank. A competing product? This wasn't just a challenge, it was a threat to everything they had worked for. The team gathered in the bioresilience headquarters the next morning to discuss the sudden threat. As Clara presented the information about Regenex, it became apparent that this new company was not only operating at lightning speed but had also somehow managed to fly under the radar, avoiding the scrutiny that had plagued bioresilience. "The fact that they've bypassed all the hurdles we've faced is troubling," Evelyn said, her voice sharp with concern. "They've launched in Europe already, and they're making waves. If they continue on this path, we'll be fighting a battle on multiple fronts." Elon rubbed his temples, deep in thought. How is it possible they've come this far without anyone noticing? We've been in the spotlight for months. How did they stay hidden? Clara spoke again, her expression grim. "They've been incredibly quiet, no press releases, no marketing blitzes. They've gone straight to the key players in the medical and tech sectors, bypassing the public. It's like they've been working in the shadows." The more they discussed it, the more unsettling the situation became. Regenex wasn't just copying bioresilience technology, they had innovated on it, taking the concept of muscle regeneration and cognitive enhancement further by introducing emotional intelligence monitoring and deep neural stimulation, techniques that were years ahead of what bioresilience had created. "They've not only copied us, but they've also improved on some of our features," Clara said, looking down at the research notes. "Their product is sleeker, faster, and, most concerning, it's more affordable. We were pricing ours for the high-end market, but Regenex is targeting the mass market." In the next few days, the bioresilience team scrambled to understand what Regenex's rise meant for their future. Their initial belief in the market's vast potential had fueled their rapid growth, but now, with a powerful competitor emerging so quickly, they were forced to face a new reality. The race to dominate the future of aging wasn't going to be a straight path. Elon's mind whirred. He had always believed that their technology was revolutionary, but now they were facing the unexpected, competition in a space they had thought they had all to themselves. Reagan X was moving faster and with a sense of agility that bioresilience couldn't match. Could they really compete? What do we do now? Evelyn asked, breaking the silence in the meeting room. We've got a product with promise, but they're getting ahead of us in ways we didn't expect. Elon paced, hands clasped behind his back. He knew they couldn't just match Reagan X's pace, they needed to find their edge. Bioresilience had prided itself on being the first to pioneer the intersection of technology and aging, but now they had to take a step back and reassess their place in the market. Elon stood at the head of the room and looked at his team. They had faced obstacles before, but this was something different. This wasn't just a business challenge, it was a challenge to their very vision. We're not going to play catch-up, Elon said, his voice steady and determined. What we need is innovation that sets us apart. Reagan X has a good product, but it doesn't have our vision. It doesn't have our heart. We need to move faster, yes, but we also need to dig deeper. We need to double down on our commitment to improving the human experience of aging, not just fighting it. Clara nodded, her eyes lighting up. We can't just compete on the product. We've always said we were creating a movement, not just a device. We need to focus on that. Elon paused for a moment, considering her words. Exactly. Reagan X is focused on the product, but we are focused on something bigger. Our message has always been about holistic well-being, integrating mental health, community engagement, and personal empowerment into the aging process. It's about how people live, not just how long they live. The team quickly set to work on a strategy that would set them apart from Reagan X. It wasn't just about outpacing them, it was about finding their unique voice in the marketplace and reinforcing the bioresilience philosophy. The new approach would focus not just on the physical and mental benefits of their technology, but also on the emotional well-being of users, something that Reagan X had yet to fully address. They also decided to accelerate their efforts in global markets, focusing on partnerships with community-based organizations that aligned with their values. This would help differentiate bioresilience as a movement with a deep commitment to global aging populations, especially in places where relationships and connections were valued more than individualism. We are not just in the business of products, Elon said, as they refined their approach. We're in the business of changing how people view aging. We need to engage our customers, make them part of the story, not just consumers of a product. As the team solidified their new vision, they knew they were on the precipice of something massive. The battle for the future of aging wasn't just about competing in the marketplace, it was about leading a movement that had the power to reshape society's relationship with aging. Reagan X may have caught them off guard, but bioresilience had the one thing their competitor didn't, a passionate community of people who believed in their mission. This was more than a business, this was about creating a future where aging wasn't a burden, but a journey. And Elon was more committed than ever to seeing it through. In the face of overwhelming adversity, the only way forward is up. Bioresilience had been dealt a blow, but the fire that had ignited their journey was far from extinguished. It was time to rise, reinvent, and reclaim what was theirs, one step at a time. The last few weeks had been brutal. Bioresilience, the company that once seemed unstoppable, had found itself on the defensive, struggling to maintain its market position in the wake of Reagan X's unexpected rise. The team was working harder than ever, trying to outpace their competitors and reassert their place in the rapidly evolving field of aging technology. Elon stared out of his office window, the weight of the situation pressing on him. They had reached a critical moment. Every decision from here on out could make or break everything they had worked so hard to build. Clara, where are we with the new marketing strategy? Elon asked, his voice tinged with urgency. Clara looked up from her laptop, her eyes weary but focused. We've got a plan, but it's not just about messaging anymore. We need a realignment. Our product, our message, our entire brand has to reflect a shift in how we view aging. Elon nodded. I agree. Reagan X is running full speed ahead with their tech, but they're missing something fundamental. They're selling a product. We're selling a new future. We need to remind people why they chose bioresilience in the first place. The bioresilience team gathered in their strategy room for a series of intense brainstorming sessions. After months of trying to outmatch Reganex's rapid advancements, it became clear that reacting to them wouldn't win the battle. Instead, they needed to redefine their mission entirely. Evelyn, ever the pragmatist, spoke up. We can't just play defense. We need to show the world why bioresilience is more than just a technology. It's about empowering people, helping them reclaim their lives and their futures. Aging isn't something to fight against, it's something to embrace. Clara nodded in agreement. Exactly. Reganex is focused on the tech. We're focused on the people. And that's our advantage. We've always been about more than just innovation. We're about connection, community, and the quality of life. With a renewed sense of purpose, the team shifted gears. Instead of trying to mimic Reganex's quick market penetration, they decided to take a more holistic approach. Bioresilience would become more than just a product, it would be a movement. Their first move was to reframe their marketing. Bioresilience wasn't just about offering a high-tech solution to aging. It was about rethinking aging itself. The team began to develop a new campaign focused on the concept of aging redefined. It would highlight how their technology could help people not just live longer, but live better, with improved physical health, mental clarity, and emotional resilience. We need to talk to people where they are, Elon said, his voice filled with conviction. Reganex is selling a promise of anti-aging. We're selling a better way of aging. That's the difference. Evelyn added, we'll focus on stories. Real people, real transformations. People who have used bioresilience to improve their lives. We need to show the world that it's not just about the technology, it's about the journey. The team quickly began gathering testimonials and case studies, showcasing real-life stories from people whose lives had been transformed by bioresilience technology. They focused not just on the physical benefits, but on the emotional and social improvements that came with it, people reconnecting with their families, rediscovering their passions, and reclaiming their sense of purpose. One particularly moving testimonial came from a woman named Sarah, a former athlete who had suffered from debilitating joint pain and muscle loss due to aging. After using bioresilience technology, she was able to regain strength and flexibility, enabling her to return to the activities she loved, like hiking and dancing. But more than that, she spoke about how her renewed energy allowed her to reconnect with her grandkids and become more involved in her community. I didn't just get my body back, Sarah said in her interview. I got my life back. Elon watched the interview and felt a spark of hope. This was the heart of bioresilience, human connection and the improvement of life, not just the battle against aging. As the marketing strategy took shape, the team began to focus more heavily on community outreach. Instead of just selling a product to individuals, bioresilience would position itself as a catalyst for change in communities around the world. The company began working closely with local organizations to ensure that their technology wasn't just available, but actively integrated into people's lives, especially for those in underserved or aging populations. We're not just selling devices, Clara said. We're creating support networks, giving people the tools and community they need to thrive in their later years. This is bigger than just bioresilience. It's a global shift in how we view aging. Elon added, exactly. And by empowering individuals, we're also empowering their families, their communities. That's the real value of what we're doing. We need to make sure people understand that. As bioresilience renewed focus on community and connection began to take shape, something unexpected happened. The team began receiving positive feedback not just from customers, but from industry leaders and government bodies that were impressed with the company's commitment to social good. One of the most surprising endorsements came from the World Health Organization, WHO, which reached out to explore potential collaborations in using bioresilience technology to improve the lives of the aging population worldwide. We're being invited to the table, Evelyn said, her eyes wide with surprise. The WHO is interested in working with us. This could be huge. Elon smiled, a rare sense of optimism in his eyes. It's exactly what we needed. If the world is going to listen to us, we need to prove that we're about more than just the tech. We're about changing the global conversation about aging. Bioresilience was ready to make its next big push. Their new campaign, built on the idea of aging redefined, was gaining momentum. Testimonials were rolling in, partnerships with community organizations were strengthening, and their technology was being embraced in ways they hadn't anticipated. But even as they rose from the ashes of their initial challenges, Elon knew that the battle wasn't over. RegenX was still out there, and the competition was fierce. However, Bioresilience had something that their competitors couldn't replicate, a deep sense of purpose. We've come a long way, Elon said, looking around the room. But the journey is just beginning. We have a world to change. And we'll do it together. The future isn't just something you inherit. It's something you create. As Bioresilience stands on the precipice of a new world, Elon Musk and his team must ask themselves, what is the legacy they wish to leave? It's time to turn the page and redefine what it means to age, to live, and to thrive. Bioresilience had come a long way. After weeks of redefining their mission and rallying behind the idea of aging redefined, the team felt like they were on the cusp of something extraordinary. Their recent campaign, focused on holistic well-being, had taken off, capturing the attention of both individuals and institutions. Yet, despite the momentum, Elon knew the road ahead wasn't clear. Standing at the window of his office, looking out over the city, he reflected on how far they had come and how much they had sacrificed. Bioresilience was more than just a company, it was a movement, a vision for the future of aging, something that could change the way the world viewed both the elderly and the journey of life itself. But what did it all mean? What kind of legacy do we want to leave behind? Elon asked quietly to himself, a question that had been growing in his mind for days. The team had worked tirelessly for years, pouring their hearts and souls into a mission they believed could change the world. But as the final stages of their latest projects neared completion, Elon realized that the bigger picture was about more than just overcoming competitors like RegenX. It was about leaving a lasting impact. Clara, who had been with him since the early days, walked into his office, sensing that he was lost in thought. "You've been quiet all morning," she said, taking a seat. "What's on your mind?" Elon turned to face her. "It's not just about winning anymore, Clara. It's about purpose. What we're doing here is bigger than just building a successful company. It's about redefining the entire concept of aging. And I want to make sure we get it right." Clara nodded. "I understand. It's not just about the tech or the market share, it's about the impact we have. The people we're helping, the communities we're changing." Elon smiled. "Exactly. This is a legacy that has the potential to shape generations." The Bioresilience team was soon gathered for a meeting to discuss the company's next major move. The future wasn't just about pushing the boundaries of what was possible with technology, it was about building a movement that could inspire and empower. The next step would be to ensure that Bioresilience wasn't just a company making waves in the marketplace, but a catalyst for change in society's approach to aging. Bioresilience was born out of the belief that aging doesn't have to be a decline, Elon began, his voice filled with the kind of conviction that had fueled the company from the start. "We've shown people that it's possible to live longer, healthier lives. But now we need to show them that it's not just about living longer, it's about living better. We need to build a global movement, one that not only embraces the future of aging but celebrates it." The team listened intently, sensing that this was a defining moment for the company. This wasn't about just selling a product, it was about creating a new narrative for society. Evelyn spoke up, "We need to position ourselves as thought leaders in this space, not just in the tech world but in the social and cultural spaces as well. Our message has always been about more than the technology, it's about shifting the narrative of aging and encouraging people to see it as an opportunity, not a limitation." Clara agreed. "Exactly. We need to put the human experience at the center of everything we do. It's about empowerment, not just intervention. With this renewed sense of purpose, BioResilience launched a global initiative to change the conversation around aging. Their goal was to bring together innovators, thought leaders, and communities to create a global network focused on improving the quality of life for aging populations worldwide. The movement would highlight not just the technology, but also the importance of community, emotional well-being, and holistic health. Let's start the conversation on a global stage, Elon said. We can partner with organizations, universities, and influencers to amplify our message. We're not just creating products. We're creating a future. Their first event, titled Reimagining Aging, brought together a diverse group of voices from across the world, scientists, health professionals, policymakers, and everyday people who had embraced bioresilience technology. The event was a huge success, with media coverage reaching millions of viewers and social media platforms buzzing with discussions about how society could look at aging in a more positive light. Even with this newfound success, Elon knew that there would always be challenges. Competition was fierce, and the road to truly shifting global perspectives wouldn't be easy. But in that moment, as he watched the global conversation unfold, he realized that they had already won. They had created something that was bigger than business. They had started a movement that would outlast any single company or competitor. We're changing lives, he said to Clara one evening after the event. And in doing so, we're changing the way the world sees aging. That's the legacy I want. Clara smiled, knowing that they were on the cusp of something extraordinary. We've only just begun, Elon. As bioresilience continued to grow, so did its influence. The movement they had started began to spread to new corners of the world, impacting policy changes, encouraging innovation, and, most importantly, giving people hope. Hope that aging didn't mean the end of their journey, but the beginning of something even more fulfilling. Elon and the team had set out to redefine aging, and in doing so, they had redefined what it meant to live a meaningful, empowered life at any age. In the years that followed, bioresilience would continue to be a force for change, pushing the boundaries of what technology could do, but always with the understanding that true progress came from improving the human experience itself. And as for Elon, he had finally found peace with his journey. He had built something that would leave a legacy, not just in technology, but in the very way people lived and loved. Bioresilience had risen from the ashes, not just as a company, but as a movement, ready to change the world forever. Thank you for following along on this journey with Elon Musk's surprising take on muscle health, 3 foods seniors must know. This was a tale of resilience, innovation, and the power of community in changing the narrative around aging. As bioresilience continues to influence the world, we leave you with the reminder that the future is ours to create, and it's never too late to begin anew. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?